In recent years, the Australian Defence Force has turned its attention to civilian needs inside Australia. The ADF has for many years contributed to overseas disaster and humanitarian relief. The need was then identified to support the civilian community inside the nation's borders. This is known as DAC, or Defence Aid to the Civilian Community. The ADF exercises these skills with civilian organisations ranging from the police, SES, MFS and CFS. The primary aim of these exercises is to test the way in which those organisations can work together to provide the needed relief.
Right, so there is informed lots, the guys ready to go, moving over to SES, we'll brief with them.
SES has a long history of working closely with Defence, and the cooperative arrangements that we enter into when we're exercising are really important for ensuring that when the real jobs are on, our people can work together.
In this exercise, there's been extensive flooding with missing people and probable injuries and fatalities. The area has seen a great deal of activity from rescue services over the previous few days. And it's as the rescue services feel the pinch on their well-worked people that Defence is called in to provide extra support.
All right, let's get started then, folks. A very quick briefing so that we can actually get you out and do some work before the weather turns bad.
In a DAC exercise, the principal control is from the main civilian agency. In this case, it's the SES that takes responsibility.
The SES will seek assistance either from the local base commander if it's an immediate emergency, and whilst the defence elements and Army will provide support, they remain within their own chain of command.
They direct the ADF assets to where they are best used. The ADF in this case is the 9th Brigade's Reserve soldiers.
Make sure that you just consolidate your information, confirm that it's correct, so that when the information goes up both channels, we're all talking off the same hymn sheet.
While guided by the SES, the Army maintains command over its members and directs their movements.
We'll have to break it up into tents.
What we do is when we get up, we'll make assessment, do it, so our boundary will be on the left-hand side.
In the gorge, a coordinated search gets underway, looking for the injured, the lost and the dead. As they are found, relief efforts are mounted to rescue or recover the victims.
You and I will need to go down.
More to follow.
This is a great example of the mix of both civilian and ADF resources. Working their way through dense foliage, the teams eventually start to find survivors.
Specifically what we'll do is SES means we'll address it. The evacuation plan will come via the SES.
Let's get you warm. We'll get you a nice warm drink.
Coordinating medical help comes from the ADF side.
No, what's that grid reference, mate?
The poor weather is perfect for the scenario being played out, and it is cold and wet.
We got a nice heavy downpour last night, so it worked well for the scenario which we're dealing with, which is a flood type scenario. So the guys could actually go out onto the ground and work in the terrain, in the environment that it would be in real life.
Stepping off in support of 12 Bravo. That's what we need to let them know.
We just need to give them a grid because 1-1's going to be coming in.
There are no grumbles though, as the SES and 9 Brigade members get on with the job.
Straight through there.
Oh, I got him.
How you doing, sir?
We have located one person. Grid reference 015382.
They know that one day they could be called out to do just this kind of work in an actual disaster.
Certainly recent experience across Australia has demonstrated that there will be emergency events where Defence are deployed in support of the civilian authorities.
Your task today will be to conduct sandbagging and watergate operations
Day 2 sees little improvement in the weather, but the focus of the operation is shifted to the hills town of Balhanna. Here, there is a serious risk of extensive flooding, and it's time to bring some heavy artillery into the mix.
Soldiers on the ground have been absolutely fantastic, and they've both the SES and the soldiers have learned a lot from each other this weekend.
You want to just carry it around all day?
And there's no substitute for a hard slog. Watching this unfold is South Australia's SES Deputy Chief Officer Dermot Barry.
It's tremendous. I wasn't sure. We've had terrible weather leading up to this, and it's been tough, hard nights. But the attitude of the soldiers and their commanders has been fantastic. I've got nothing but praise for all of them.
Now, Gregory's actually in a wheelchair, so he will require assistance getting down there.
At the same time, 9 Brigade soldiers are starting a much-needed door-to-door search for any remaining residents who may be in need to help leave the threatened homes.
It's really good to work with the SES because we're 3rd 9th Light Horse, we're CAV. We have to constantly be able to work on the radios. What we've been doing with the SES really fits in with the training that we do in normal Green Force.
After training with them last night and working with them, we got some of our SES volunteers to explain the system to them, and this is the kind of work we'd expect them to do in the case of a large emergency.
By mid-afternoon, the threat has been averted, and the job now is to deconstruct the barrier and pack up to head back to base. All bases, as both SES and 9 Brigade members head back to a debrief and then home for a well-earned hot shower.
That would have been their priority, but there still may have been less people do that.
The exercise showed some flaws in the systems for both teams, and this is the value of doing this work. Those flaws can be corrected before it's too late and an actual disaster occurs.
I think it's been very useful. It gives us a chance to see how they work and they can see how we work and just see if there's any communication issues there.
Both teams worked really well together and gained valuable insight into how each other's operations work and how those operations can be brought together in a time of crisis.
I think it went very well. I think the coordination that we had between the SES and the Army got better as the exercise got on, and we got used to each other's planning cycles, if you like.
For our members in SES, it's a great opportunity to have a first-hand experience of Army personnel on operations. The way that Army plans and executes its missions is quite different from the type of planning that SES volunteers and firefighters get involved in. So it's really important that when we go on joint operations that we have an appreciation of those differences and how we can work together.
I think they enjoyed having that interface with the SES. A lot of the time we go on exercise we don't actually have the real interface occurring, so people have to role play it, where in this case we actually had them on the ground, so the guys felt that was really good.
Despite the weather, I think it's been actually really, really good, so I've enjoyed my time.